Welcome to Watching the Horizon. I'm Jake. The vast majority of Americans have no idea what war is. We haven't tasted it here on American soil. I think that because of the big detachment that we generally have with the major conflicts that occur throughout the world, we have this long-distance relationship with violence. And it all happens on the news. It all happens on the screen. It never actually happens to us in our own backyard. The horrors of war are real. And honestly, I question whether or not we would actually even be able to fight a war here on American soil. A civil war or an invading force, I think that so many of us would just run away because we're just so, ew, this sucks, I'm out of here. That's not true. Actually, I think the American people are quite resilient. I think in the face of adversity, we would toughen up. I think we could, in fact, rise to the challenge. But I think what scares me the most is if for some reason there was some sort of perceived injustice that was so dramatic that we decided to war against ourselves. I think that would be the absolute worst. Those of you who have served overseas and saw actual combat, I'm curious as to your opinion now that you're home again. What do you think? Do you think we could handle it? Do you think we could sustain a conflict here on our own soil? When we all learned about the Great Civil War back in the day, we all learned that it was generally the North versus the South. And maybe it was a footnote, maybe they didn't even mention it at all, but I wanted to bring as a reminder that when Civil War did in fact break out, other countries came to our aid, both North and South. And if civil war in this country were to ever happen again, so would that aid. If something were to go down, you could guarantee that other countries, the UN, whomever, would come into the rescue and lend foreign support, supplies, troops, and who knows what else. So don't think that any kind of internal conflict is truly only ever going to remain internal. This should scare everyone. But if there was going to be a second civil war, what would the split be? Last time it was pretty easy, North versus South, more of a slavery versus non-slavery issue. But in this next civil war, if there ever was to be one, how would the lines be drawn exactly? Could it be political, maybe red states versus blue states, or red counties versus blue counties, liberals versus conservatives, Republicans versus Democrat? Would it be more geographic? Like, I know that California is making noise again that they're looking to secede. Texas has always been talking about that, although oddly enough for kind of the exact opposite reasons as California. Would it be more of like the coastal states versus the breadbasket states? Or would it be more like cities versus rural populations? Or is it that if such a war were ever to occur, it would actually be race-based? You've got black versus white versus Native American versus Hispanic. Would it just end up being a free-for-all? Or would the split be more medieval in nature and just be the poor versus the rich? Let them eat cake. A lot of people feel like it'll just be the people versus the government. That last one rings true with a lot of people, but you have to remember, what is the government? Well, the government is made of people. So who exactly are you going to be fighting? Any government agency whatsoever? Or are you going to be fighting people who side with the government versus the rebels? Are we going to have a empire versus rebel situation here? I mean, honestly, if the US was building a Death Star, I'd want to know about it. Some people have told me that they think that sometime in the future there's going to be some sort of disaster that's going to occur, whether it be a hurricane or an earthquake, but it's going to be large and vast, and it's going to be one of those things where the United States isn't going to necessarily be able to help all of the people involved because of the massive scale. And the US at that point is going to reach out for foreign aid, and that this reaching out to foreign aid, UN troops or whatever, that bringing in those troops to help out with peacekeeping, that in fact is going to be the thing that spurs on some sort of civil war. Now, I don't know where this kind of stuff is coming together. I mean, some of it sounds like conspiracy theory, some of it sounds like this plotline to a bad novel or a regular Hollywood movie. Truth is, I don't know. And do I think that it's actually going to happen? Are we actually going to have a civil war? I don't know. I hope not. And one thing that I do know for sure, though, is there seems to be a lot of discontent everywhere with a lot of people. In this day and age, when people boycott companies because of their political stances, and when companies boycott people for social justice reasons, how safe is your food supply, really? In the end, this is why I made this video. Just to kind of bring awareness to the fact that we don't know what's going to happen. Build your food storage. Build your water storage. There's no excuse. Right now, food is still relatively cheap. Now, it's going up in price all over the world, but we don't really feel it here. So take advantage and build up your food storage. I'd like to issue you a challenge. In the next 6 months, I want you to get 3 months worth of food and water. And I don't care what kind or how you do it, whether it's freeze-dried or whether it's canning, or whether you just go to the store and you just buy extra stuff and put it in your pantry. I don't care. Water could be just water bottles. Maybe you go get water containers. It doesn't matter. For your family, I challenge you. It's going to take you 6 months to do it or less, but I want you to have at least 3 months worth of food and water in reserve just in case. Now, do I think something's going to happen at the end of 6 months? No, I don't. Maybe, but no. But you'll be glad you did it. And if you're up for it, bonus challenge. In 6 months, don't do 3 months worth of food and water. Do a whole year. Don't worry about all the other stuff. I know that if you're a beginning prepper or you're just thinking about it, or if you just know that there's some uneasiness on the horizon and you're thinking, man, it'd probably be a good idea, just worry about food and water. Don't get caught up in the hype of the whole survivalist or prepper movement. Don't worry about that. Just get, for right now, food and water. If you want to go ahead and get other stuff, then great. But focus on just those 2 things right now. You'll be glad you did. So go and do. And if you do, at the end of 6 months, let's check it out. I want you to send me a video of your new food storage. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes open.